Welcome to Fearless University, the podcast where we discuss, dissect, and examine some of life's greatest fears. My name is Coach Lane Lee, performance coach and fear psychology enthusiast, here to help you understand your greatest fear. Fear is my passion, curiosity is my nature, and understanding is the gift that I seek to share with all who will listen. Because if we seek to understand more, we can learn to fear less. Welcome to another episode of Fearless University. Each week, I feature a new guest who lends their special brand of wisdom and expertise to help me unlock the mysteries of fear. We laugh, we may cry, but above all else, we seek understanding. Because it's not about being void of fear, but understanding more to fear itself less. You guys, I hope you're ready because today we get into it. My brother from another mother, Blaze Davis, is on the show, and ooh, is it a good one. We talk about where Blaze gets his cool and unusual name from, and how his grandmother's foresight into the man he was meant to become encouraged him to embrace his destiny. We discuss how faith and fear are similar, and how you can use your fear to strengthen your faith. And later, Blaze shares with us his amazing story of being on YouTube campus when tragedy struck that fateful day, and how faith and fear of missing out on what he'd leave behind moved him to action. You guys, get ready to be educated by insight, inspired by experience, and moved by emotion as Blaze shares his testimonies with us today. So without further ado, this is episode 4 with my man, Blaze Davis. Have you ever had a person you always knew about because you rode in similar circles, but you never really met until years later? Then, once you did meet, you found that you were kindred spirits? Well, that's pretty much the backstory to how I met today's guest, my friend and brother from another mother, Blaze Davis. Blaze and I have known of each other for about 5 years through mutual connections and friends. Apparently, we're a part of an elite group of mixed dudes who all at some point have had bald heads and beards. But we never met in person until about a month ago when we had lunch at YouTube headquarters here in San Bruno, California. When we did finally meet in person, I got to know the real Blaze and was instantly intrigued by his demeanor, his insight, his convictions, and his talent. And I think that after today's interview, you will be equally intrigued. Blaze, what's going on, man?
How you doing, bro? How you doing?
Man, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, man, I'm honored to be a part of this, and thank you for wanting me to be on this, man. I'm really honored to be a part of this today.
Well, I think for me, the main thing is to seek out people, whether I know them or not, but seek out folks who I feel have a compelling story to tell. And I try to cater the topics, directly to those stories. And I think that today's topic was kind of custom crafted for Blaze Davis.
Uh-oh.
Hey, man, so I wanted to save the bio stats for you to share yourself, since I basically gave Eric's entire life story on episode 1 before he even got a chance to speak. So take a moment, enlighten the people. Who is Blaze Davis?
Yeah, man. So, first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father of 4 growing boys. They keep me going 24/7. And I'm also a creator, man. I love, creating and helping out other creatives to kind of reach their, reach the sky, right, with their imagination and, what they love doing. I love telling stories. I do a lot of video work. I'm a photographer, and in full time work. I'm over at YouTube as a live stream specialist. And kind of doing the whole tech thing. But yeah, man, I love pizza. And and yeah, I just love meeting new people, man. I love getting to know people's stories and their backgrounds and just being inspired by people, man. So, years ago when I was told that I looked like somebody named Lane Lee, I was like, hey man, why all light skinned guys always gotta look the same?
That's for real, man.
And everyone's like, man, you guys look the same. You got a beard, you're bald, and you guys are both creative. And I was like, man, I gotta meet this guy.
Right.
And linked up on Facebook, and then all in God's plan, man. It all came through this year, and I'm excited to see where everything leads to, and where this podcast goes, and where this takes you, man. And so I'm really honored. Again, I'm honored to be a part of this, man, and say that you're my brother, and stop looking like me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying. I'm growing the hair out now, so I'm trying to do something different, but while I still can,
Hey man, I was gonna say that too, man. I'm proud of you to go get the hair back, man, because I wish that's what I wish I had. I mean, you'll see me in like a baseball hat, or a beanie, thinking, oh man, I wish I could just go get a fade one time.
Right.
So yeah, as long as you can, man, rock the hair, man.
That's what I'm trying to do, man, because I know genetics wise they are not in my favor, for much longer, and so yeah, I'm gonna rock that hair as long as I can. But man, no, I appreciate the compliments on the podcast, and I think that is definitely something that I picked up on when we did meet the first time right away, is that we both thoroughly enjoy learning other people's stories and conveying that, through different media, with the visuals and, with this podcast and everything that I'm trying to put together on YouTube. That is my main motivation, that I want to travel the world and learn people's stories and share that. Because I think that at the end of the day, legacy is all you will have left when you leave this earth. And I think that, he or she who hoards that legacy and tries to keep it to themselves is not doing anything for the betterment of mankind. So I think that it's tantamount, important for us to be able to share our stories with one another and listen to one another as well. So I'm going to try to do more of that today. I'm going to try to do more of the listening and let you do more of the telling, man. But I think that first thing we need to address for those that are listening, for those that don't know you, and if you don't mind sharing, you've got an interesting name.
Yeah.
Where does Blaze come from?
So it actually came from my grandmother. My real name is Brandon. When I was a kid, being mixed, I spent a lot of time on my Italian side, and so I would get mad. A kid, I was always a hothead. And my skin would turn red, and my grandmother would say, "Oh, watch out! Here comes Blaze!" And everybody would, kind of laugh at me. Years later, getting involved into church, going to like Sunday schools and stuff like that, I started to have like these dreams. And I would go and tell my grandmother, like, man, I had this dream of this person. And then, whatever that dream was ended up coming true, and so my grandmother would take me to around her friends or like, church groups, and they would ask me like, I would have a dream about somebody and I'll kind of share it. And when I would do that, my skin again would turn red, and my grandma she would see like a blue flame around me, or her friends would say like, when I was praying or going into, talking, about my dreams or just talking about God in general, that my skin would turn red and they would see a blue flame. And so Blaze became a nickname that my grandmother called me, as like who I was going to be, a trailblazer, on fire for God, on fire for people, and on fire to make change, and
wow.
So that's how Blaze came about, and going into high school, I asked my grandmother not to call me that no more because I was, getting in trouble. And
right.
get on the football team. And, I didn't want, just moving back to California, I didn't want people to think that I was a pothead or just smoking,
Right.
trying to get right. So I told her, don't call me that no more. And I think it kind of hurt her feelings.
Yeah.
And one thing that she would always tell me was, don't forget who you are, and your name has power and your words have power. So, I was like, no, don't call me Blaze. Just call me something else. You can call me Ben, call me Bud, call me whatever. Just don't call me Blaze. And so she died 3 years ago.
Sorry to hear that, man.
And thank you. When she was passing, it was on her birthdays when one of her lungs collapsed, and she was immediately put into the hospital, and then she was released and on hospice. And we were having a big old surprise party for family and friends were over there, and we were all kind of laughing and talking. She was laying down in the living room on her bed in the living room, and she was like, Blaze, Blaze, and everybody like kind of stopped beating, was like, whoa, and so I went over there and to see what she was talking about, because she hasn't called me since high school, and she's like, I wanted to know Jesus how you know Jesus, and I was like, what are you talking about? You're the one that kind of taught me about it, and she's like, I want you to pray for me, and so I did that, and as I was doing that, she pulled me to her and said, don't ever forget who you are, don't ever let that fire in you, die, and just know that you'll always be the rock of the family. And she looked at me, she smiled, and a tear rolled down her eyes. And right when that happened, and she laid her head back down, she went into a coma and passed away a couple of days later.
Wow.
And so from that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna take ownership of this name. I think I'm gonna actually have pride in it and be proud of what this nickname means to me, and the power in the power in the names. And so.
Yeah.
Man, ever since then, everything on social media has changed. People at work are now catching on, to the Blaze.
Literally, they're catching fire.
Yeah. And yeah, man, and I introducing myself as Blaze Davis, man. And I'm really happy that was a nickname given to me. And I'm sad to say, I'm sad that my grandmother had to pass away for me to finally get that, but God uses those things to bring light to certain things so you can move forward in life. And I know that she's in a better place, and the fact that she taught me who Jesus was, and then I got to pray for her, the last one to pray for her. I was really honored to do that, and glad that she trusted me enough to do that. That was really big for me. And again, God used that situation, a sad situation, to bring me to the forefront of where I'm at now. I'm very thankful for it.
That's amazing. Like, as I'm listening to you tell the story, and of course I've heard this before, but I thought it was important for everybody else to hear it. But it had me thinking about other people who are afraid to embrace who they were born to be.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like that's exactly where you were at. And I think that we all go through that. We all rebel against what we can feel deep down inside is calling or screaming sometimes to come out of us, And maybe you could speak on that for a second. Like, there was clearly, some sort of resentment that was there that probably had a much deeper meaning. But did you ever feel that? Did you ever feel afraid to embrace that? Not just embarrassment. Did it go to the point where you were like, did you know deep down that you were meant to be Blaze Davis?
Man, to be honest, those when I would have dreams, it actually scared me. The dreams were spot on.
Wow.
And there's another story too of my son, Adrian, my third son. He has mosaic Down syndrome. And as a kid, I would have dreams about having a kid with special needs. Because, being a military family, you're traveling around different states and countries all the time. And for some reason, every time I went to a different state, I was always the new kid in school.
Yeah.
And every time I got comfortable somewhere, they moved me to a different spot. So being comfortable and having trust in things were always an issue for me.
Man.
And so I would go to a new school, and then I would be friends with somebody with special needs, or like I would see somebody bullying a kid with special needs, and then I end up getting in fights, to protect those kids.
Yeah.
And I would have these dreams, and at the time I would call them nightmares. Like, I would pray like, oh, I don't want, God, I don't want to have kids, or, I just didn't want, I thought for sure, I knew that I was going to have a kid with special needs, and I tried to run from that, and I didn't want any part of that. So I would have these dreams, and my grandmother would say, baby, those are not bad dreams. God's telling you what's ahead of you. He's preparing you before that even comes years from now.
Wow.
She with that. And, she's like, why you're having these dreams? Why you're having these, these visions of these people? Why all these people are always in your heart? Why you always want to be, my grandma said I was a carrier. I would carry people's issues or their problems, or I would be the one people can talk to, and I can help them, get over certain things.
Right.
She's like, why you have a strong back? She's like, because you can handle that. And there's times where I didn't know if I wanted that responsibility,
right?
That pressure,
right?
So, growing up, that's just who I was, and coming back to California and telling her, I don't want that name, or just trying to not be that certain person because I was trying to fit in. Because again, traveling everywhere, and my mom was like, this is the last place we're living. You're going to live in California until you move out yourself. And,
right.
So I'm like, man, this is my opportunity to actually have some real friends, to finally have a foundation somewhere. And,
right. Reinvent yourself a little bit.
Yeah. And I didn't want people to get that first impression wrong of me. Growing up in the city that I grew up in, there wasn't a whole lot of, minorities in our school, and especially on the football team, so that was one of my things. Was like, man, I need to fit in. Not that I want to fit in, I need to fit in. Just so I can make sure that I can take care of myself, or that things will, work in my favor. And I think doing that, I lost a part of who I was, because I was afraid of people knowing what what kind of music I listen to, or, that I go to church, or, why I can't go hang out with people, at the bowling alley or the movie super late, and I was trying to be something that I wasn't. And doing, I kept running into a lot of issues, getting into trouble, getting into fights, things not happening for me the way that I thought they were going to pan out, and so once I, over the years, once I understood of who I was and what I was supposed to be, things started falling in line for me a lot easier, because now it's not hard to do. It's not hard to be nice. It's not hard to be, put people first.
Right.
Is it hard sometimes to always want to do that? Yes.
Right.
But I know that me doing it, me helping somebody else out in return, is helping me out, and it's kind of fulfilling, what I love doing. And so, to answer the question, did I run from it? Was it easy to run from it? It wasn't, because it was always there, and I've always had my grandmother always, people have, family members or friends that kind of hold them accountable, right? Or
Very
give them
true.
That certain look. Like, my grandmother would always give me this certain look, and I knew that I did something wrong, or like she was disappointed in me.
Right.
So I would get that look, and even to this day, like when I go to make a decision or do something that I know may be risky or whatever, I have the image of my grandmother looking at me like, boy, what are you doing?
Wow.
And it's funny too, because my wife sometimes does that to me as well.
Wow.
I'm like, bro, it's a trip that it's the same type of look.
Yeah.
So that can kind of keep me in line and keep me on the path of, remembering who I am and why I'm doing it. My wife's always, preaching to that to me, like, don't forget who you are, or she always says, don't be left with a feather, and so for me, not being left with a feather means to be true to who I am, and to embrace it and not run from it.
That's deep, man. So what was the question I was going to ask? It was, what was the paradigm shift, do you feel, then for you, that took you from trying to disown, right, the blaze, and then saying, you know what, enough running, enough trying to avoid who I am because it's always in my face. What was that shift, or what caused that shift to say, you know what, I'm just going to embrace this and stop running?
When I realized that it was okay to be me, you know, playing sports, you know, being a student athlete in general is really, to me, one of the hardest things to do. And for me, being a student athlete and then not being as big as the rest of the guys on the football team,
Right.
or basketball team or whatever, that was like, I had to work twice as hard for everything. And, you know, not being the smartest in the classroom, being a C average student, you know,
Mm-hmm.
always had to work twice as hard as everybody else. And like when somebody would call me stupid or say that I couldn't do something, that was like fuel to my fire, you know. So once I stopped saying like, you know what, I am Blaze, and like when somebody said that I couldn't do something, I worked twice as hard to prove that person wrong, and that's what started igniting like this, just being encouraged to keep going, you know, and to embrace who I was, you know, and so it was, you know, I would say, you know, the name that I really started to really take hold of it was probably my senior year in high school. You know, as a kid, it was easy, you know, and then everybody thought it was cool to have the name Blaze. You know, oh man, this my cousin Blaze.
Right.
This my boy. You know, so it was always cool as a kid. High school is a little different, you know.
Right.
And people, it's funny because people still today like, oh, what's your real name?
Right.
And can't that just be my real name?
Right.
Like, you know, and they were like, oh, well, that's pretty cool if it's your real name. I was like, what if it's not? You know,
right.
like, it's a name, you know?
Yeah.
And, so, but, you know, going to that senior year in high school, you know, I was like, you know, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be. And it's okay.
Right.
You know, it's okay to be afraid sometimes. You know, it's okay to kind of look at things twice, you know.
Right.
And when people would say I couldn't do something or call me stupid, or if I wanted something, I knew that I got to work hard towards it. It wasn't going to be given to me. And so I know with the name Blaze, you know, just growing up as a kid, when I was going and talking about, you know, my dreams or, you know, whatever it is that I did under that, it wasn't the name that gave me power. It was being in line with who I was that would give me that power.
It sounds like a lot of your understanding came through experience, and then the sum of those experiences are what in turn helped you to better define who you were and understand who you were, and that's what gave you that courage to step into actually saying, you know, hey, yeah, this is who I am. And it just got me thinking about, you know, kids that might be listening that are getting bullied, you know, or that are afraid to step out and say, yes, this is who I am. And, you know, I think it really is a great testimony for them to hear, because the first thing that I think of when you think of a kid that's getting bullied, or you speak with a kid that's getting bullied, they think they're the only ones. Like, they think that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Because that's how other people are making them feel. And I think that it is super encouraging for them to know that we're all afraid, we're all scared, we all have things that we would like to change about ourselves or our insecurities, but it's the sum of those insecurities and self-doubt moments that make us who we are. And I think that the pivotal turning point is when you understand that those things aren't making you worse or any less of a person. They're actually making you a better person because you understand yourself more thoroughly.
Yeah, you know, and unique, you know.
Yeah, right.
You know, I believe that, you know, once you try to fit into a mold, you know, or a stereotype, or trying to fit into a certain group, you know, social media, you know, you see kids and adults, you know, every day going through this, you know, they're scrolling, they're looking on social media, they're, you know, they're kind of obsessed with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to a kid the other day about this, man. And he was like, man, I got to get this many followers, man. Would you, you know, share my video or share my stuff? And I was like, man, I'm going to share because I want to support you, not to help you get followers.
Right.
And he was like, well, he's like, bro, man, this is how you got to do it, man. Like, I was like, no. That's not how you do it. You
Right.
stay true to who you are. You do what you love doing, and the people that are interested in what you're interested in will find you, and they will share your content. They will like your pictures, your page. They will become your friends. They'll meet you in public. You don't have to go and searching for validation or searching for people to like your stuff.
Right.
You create what you want to create or be who you want to be, and the people that are interested in that same thing will come and find it. There's billions and billions of people out here.
Right.
When somebody says, yo, Blaze, why do you want to make videos? Why do you want to do documentaries? Why do you want to take pictures, man? There's so many different people doing that already. It's already saturated. And I say, yeah, you're right. There is a lot of people that have a camera, that have cell phones, that do video and do pictures, but there's billions and billions of people in this world.
Right.
Not all these billions of people are going to follow me.
Right. And not everybody has the same perspective.
Exactly. I was like, I'm going to create how I create, do what I love doing. And the people that love and enjoy this type of work will follow me. They will like my stuff. They will reach out to me. They will support me on my journey throughout the way. I don't have to try to conform or be somebody that they want me to be.
Right. And it's really easy to get swept up in, to be honest with you. When you are trying to build a presence, but I've seen firsthand that the greatest interaction I ever get is when I try the least, when I'm just showing who I am, or I'm, showing how I coach or whatever. That's when I get the greatest reaction and the biggest response out of people. And it's something that you makes you step back and you say, wow, okay, authenticity and consistency. That's what really, like you said, that's what attracts people to what you're doing. And like you said, they will seek you out if you just keep doing you.
Yeah, and there's freedom in that, man.
It really is.
That's the biggest thing for me, is to be able to be free in who I am.
Wow.
Not having to walk on eggshells or be, on edge, where I go. That's the worst feeling, for everybody that's listening right now, think of a time where you were nervous to walk into a classroom or walk into a conference room or whatever, or a competition or whatever it is, and you're walking on eggshells. You want to look around at people. You want to be able to laugh and do you, but you're so worried about what people are saying or what they're going to think of you that your shoulders are tense and you're walking on eggshells. Man, that's the worst feeling, in my opinion, in the world. Like, I like to be free, walk around with a hat, with a beard, with some sweatpants if I wanted to, and to be free, and to know that it's okay. And I'm not going to please everybody, or not everybody's going to like my stuff, but there's people out there that are going to be inspired by it. And then in return, they're going to inspire me to want to create more or to do more or to be a part of certain things, So it's the freedom that I'm in love with.
Amen to that, man. I remember posting this quote a couple months ago that I loved. It said, if you live for others' approval, you'll die by their rejection.
Yeah.
Man. So I think it's very evident that you have a very deep, strong connection to your faith, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
How about your fear? And this was something I thought would be really interesting to explore. Like, do you feel that you have a deep connection with fear as well?
I think I battle fear, I wouldn't say a lot, but often.
In what capacity? Like, let's maybe jump in just briefly.
Yeah, I think for me, just as a father and as a husband, to leave my kids with something that they can teach their kids or their kids or their kids, or even providing at times for them, and feeling the pressure of, it's all on me. If I don't do this, we all fail, and that's just a lie, and I have to get myself back in check, or my wife is, really good at that, putting me in check, and just my perspective, getting my perspective back in line of who I am, what I'm supposed to do, and that everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And I think that the fear for me also drives me, because I don't want to feel a certain way, or I don't want to go back down that road, and so it definitely fuels me to continue to go, and continue to, I would say, grind, or wake up every day, make the commute to work, or late nights where I'm creating, or going out on a prayer, thinking like, man, God, I hope this works, because I believe in us. giving somebody my whole paycheck, knowing that I got rent and all this stuff coming up, that week, knowing that God's going to take care of that, and before that was the hard thing again, because being in the military family or base brat,
Right.
I couldn't trust everybody because I never had a chance to learn what that was.
Right.
I mean, like we were constantly moving. So I would take, somebody's word as far as I can throw it, and so knowing and trusting, in the fear, like, man, if I give this or if I do this, it's not gonna work, and and to know that it's gonna be okay, and to have faith in it, and that faith will get me through. So I think, the fear, it definitely drives me. It doesn't drive me insane, but it drives me to strive to be the best me. And to always bring my A game, to always go hard, in the paint, or, to always just keep going.
Right.
Because I never want to, feel, a certain way that I felt in the past, or feel like I'm not making a difference, especially in my boys' life. Raising 4 boys is I know people got more kids than that, but man, 4 boys is tough.
I think it's a good start.
Yeah, man, 4 boys, 4 healthy boys that all have their own personalities. They all love different things, and it's definitely it's a challenge. But again, I knew that I was made for this, or built for this, or I can handle this. This is why God blessed me with 4 boys. So
it's like a welcome challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, man. Well, I think that was the perfect segue. Unknowingly, that was a perfect segue into my next question. I know what my answer is, and I'll share my answer with you and everybody afterwards. But I'm really curious to hear how you think that faith and fear are similar.
I think they definitely go hand in hand.
Right.
Because, like I said, my biggest thing to me is not to be able to provide or be there for my family, right? Mm-hmm. And so when God tells me, yo, you need to give your whole paycheck, and no questions asked, you just do it. And inside of me, my flesh or me, my being was like, nah, bro, you're not about to do this.
Right.
You got rent, you got your car payment, you got food, you can put food on the table. And I sat on it for a whole weekend, like, I don't know, man. How can I tell my wife that I'm not going to do this, and to be afraid of what she was going to think or what she was going to say, because she's going to say, babe, you should have gave that last Friday.
Right.
And now it's Monday and we're still sitting on this. What's going on?
Right.
You're messing up my blessings. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she would always say, delayed obedience is still disobedience. So what are you waiting for?
Wow.
So that fear alone of not being ready for my blessing, or not being in the right position to move forward. God's not going to give you something that you can't handle, 1. Right. And 2, he's not going to bless you. Like if you're praying, for a scholarship, or praying to get on a team, or you're praying to, do whatever, but you're not sacrificing, or you're not leaving something behind that you love dearly. It's going to be hard for you to get to that point. Because he wants you to be not low. He doesn't want you to be broken, but he wants you to be able to give that up so you can get something in return. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Given a Hot Wheel car, you're going to be blessed with a big car or a remote control car. You know what I mean? And
right.
So there's levels to it. There's steps to it. And so if you're fearful of, not doing what you're supposed to do, then it's hard to get to having the faith to go to where you want to get to. If that makes sense.
No, it made total sense. It's interesting because my grandfather, I never met him. He died 3 years before I was born, but my father's always painted him as this larger than life figure, I think, as sons often do with their dads, even though he was apparently a very eccentric character, but he had a very famous saying among the family where he said, sometimes you have to get off your knees and hustle. And I think that a lot of people would hear that and think, oh, so you're saying you got to take matters into your own hands. And I think it was the exact opposite. I think he was always saying, we spend so much time asking God for things. And instead, sometimes you need to get off your knees and prepare yourself for the blessing. Prepare yourself and position yourself so that when the blessing comes, you are prepared for that, you know?
And you can handle it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not going to be able to go, and this is for anything in life, right?
Right.
You're like, let's just take the cheerleading, right? You're not going to be able to do the handstands or do the flips or do all that if you're not practicing and putting in the work.
Come on, man. Preach to all the athletes I talk to every week.
And it's like people wanted to come easy, you know,
right.
And God's like, nah, man, you're not ready for that.
Right.
You know, 'cause if I bless you with that, you're not going to know what to do with. You're not going to know what to do.
I tell them every week, man.
Yeah, you know, and it's crazy to think that way, but it's true, man. The story that I had of me having a kid with special needs in the hospital when he was born. As soon as he was born, I knew that there was something wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he came out blue. I can tell by the features in his face that it was Down syndrome. You know, and I'm like, oh man, like I'm thankful that he's breathing, but inside of me, I'm like, was it my thoughts that did this? Like I started blaming myself.
Wow.
Recently, my kid came out with Down syndrome.
Right.
And, you know, my wife, you know, we were like, man, what is Down? The whole night I stayed up crying, praying, wishing God to forgive me for any thoughts that I had of not saying that I wanted kids and like to help me get through this and to help him live because he was blue. He wasn't breathing.
Wow.
And the next morning, a nurse came in and took him from us because he was blue. And they were going to rush him to Children's Hospital in Oakland because he wasn't breathing.
Right.
And in the room, there was like a special room that he was in on oxygen waiting for the Children's Hospital nurses and the paramedics to come pick him up to take him to Oakland. I'm in the room and I'm just praying like, God, please don't let him die.
Right.
You know, and like I'm in this room. My wife is in the other room because she can't walk. Please don't let him die because I don't know if I can go in there and tell her that our kid's dead.
Oh, wow.
I was like, God, whatever it is that you need to do it now. You need to show up in my life right now, you know, and I'm praying. And after I said amen, I looked over to the window and I can see the little nurse that was helping her. She was pacing back and forth and she came in and I was like, oh, you know, I waved her in and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean you need to check him. She's like, no, I was waiting. I didn't want to interrupt your prayer. Like, I know you were praying. And I was like, no. I was like, man, if you want to join me in prayer, like let's do this. And
yeah.
Because at the time my beard was a lot longer.
Right.
And she was like, are you a Muslim? And I was like, no, I'm not a Muslim. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
And she looked at me. She started crying. She was like, no way. She's like, God told me you were, but I didn't believe it because your beard. And I was like, excuse me? And she was like, I came in here and she opened her hand and she had some oil in her hand. And she said, I actually came in here to pray over your son because God has a plan for him and your family, and he can't die yet. And I was like, excuse me. And so she grabbed my hand, and we just started praying over Adrian. Going into, that week was, the hardest week for us, him being on all these oxygen tubes and all this stuff, and not being able to stay in the hospital with them in the NICU, and seeing just the NICU, and seeing the different babies in there that were struggling to live, and some dying, and, some not, their parents not even there. And so my wife and I were like, man, what is going on? And every 3 hours I would go like, I'm going to go to take a break, or I'm going to go, and I would go into the bathroom and just cry, and asking God, like, God, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And he would always say, like, because you can handle it. Because you can handle it. Right. Stand up, go back in there. Stop being weak. You've been trained your whole life for this. You've been prepping for this your whole life. Now get up. And to go backwards, while I was praying over with the nurse, she looked at me and she's like, God wanted me to tell you that you can handle this. And I was like, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, you can handle this, whatever that means to you. And I just started crying again. I'm like, well, there we go. Like,
right. Confirmation.
Like, yeah. And it was always instilled in me that you can handle it.
Wow.
And so, that right there, being fearful to have kids, one, and then having a kid with special needs, I was trying to run from that. But the whole time God was prepping me. You know how to pray. You know what faith looks like. You know what fear looks like. You know what a lie is. You know when you hear those voices in your head telling you that it's your fault your kid has Down syndrome, it's because your sins that you didn't get this. It's
Right.
because of this. It's your fault. It's your fault. And the whole time it's like God was like, bro, it's not your fault. I allowed this to happen because this needed to happen, not for you, but for your family and for the people that Adrian's gonna touch. You know,
Wow.
so raise your kid up right,
Right.
and let's get this rocking. You know,
Right.
and so now, even now, hearing how Adrian's blessing people and how people just love being around him, there's a special corner in the NICU, one of the NICUs that he was in is called Adrian's Corner. And they say that
Wow.
babies that are struggling or you know, that are crying a lot, they put them in that corner and they are automatically they're peaceful, you know. And they,
Wow.
the story of Adrian and how we were in there, you know, praying for the other kids and the other babies and the families, and just to hear that, man, that was 2 years ago. You know,
That
and
is
that's still going. You know, that's like that right there is okay, God. This is what you've been prepping me for.
right.
This is what it's about right here. Like this is the moment that I've been waiting for, or the journey, or the training that I've been doing over all these years, over all the failures, all the mistakes, all the positive things, all the promotions. You know, all this has been leading up to this point. So training all the way up to this point now in my life, I'm like, okay, there's not a lot of things that can knock me off.
Right.
Um, you know, to my purpose or who I am or my identity or my faith. You know, there's not a lot of things that can knock me. Is there days where it's tough, difficult? Yes. But, you know, I have, you know, the seed planted in my heart that's, you know, that can't be uprooted. You know,
Man.
so many things happen in my life to just forget all of that, you know. And
Right. Right.
again, not you don't have to work for God's blessings, but He will give you a nugget or give you a download or will allow things to happen in your life so you can train up to get ready for the next thing. Because again, it's not He's not blessing you because He wants to bless you. He's blessing you because He wants you to impact His people or to other people. And so if you're going in it with just a one mind, you know, mindset, it's hard to be a blessing to other people. Because your blessings are not just for you, but it's for others, I believe. And yeah,
I think that it's crazy because one of the most profound things I've ever heard about God didn't come from church, didn't come from a pastor. It actually came from the movie Evan Almighty. And it was funny to me because, number one, in my mind, God looks like Morgan Freeman. So let's just put that out there right now. And he sounds just like him too. But it was, I mean, no lie, it brought tears to my eyes when he said it. You know, Evan, I think or Evan's wife was dealing with the lack of belief in Evan and what Evan said was going on. And he said, when you pray to God for patience, does God just give you a bunch of patience, or does he put you in situations that require you to be patient?
yeah,
And it just hit me like a ton of bricks because I was like, wow. And it changed personally. It changed the way that I pray and the way that I think about things because I was like, that's it right there. And it's the same thing that you're talking about. It's that preparedness, you know, it's that preparation. It's that God is not, just like he doesn't give you anything that you can't handle, it's because he's putting you in situations to give you the things that you've asked for in the first place. You know,
yeah,
when you want strength, he's not just going to bless you with some strength all of a sudden, you know, like some rippling muscles or even willpower. He's going to put you in situations where you got to flex your own muscle and you've got to develop that will on your own.
yeah,
And I think that testimony is amazing, man, because that is exactly the relationship. I can see now your experience with the relationship between faith and fear is that, you know, your faith and the fear of not being enough or not being ready, your faith is what fueled your preparedness all
yeah,
these years.
yeah.
That's amazing, man. Um, how do you use your fear to strengthen your faith? And this may, I think this kind of correlates with you know a lot of what we just got done talking about. But you know, is this a subconscious thing, or is this something that you feel may have kind of happened over time, or is it something that you consciously do, where you try to remind yourself, like, you know, to be fearful in order to strengthen your faith?
I think it's something that definitely I keep on my mind, you know, a lot. because I don't want to miss my opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss, working at YouTube. There's a lot of things that, that I see every day that I'm involved in, that I get to experience. And even getting to YouTube was a story within itself, and if I didn't take the chance on responding to an email, I would have missed the whole opportunity.
Wow.
Having a full-time job already and then getting an email from somebody saying like, hey, we love your work. We think you'll be a good fit for our client. And the way that it's worded, you're like, a computer wrote that. Or that's just that's just a saved bookmarked response.
Right.
A canned response. That's a canned response.
Right, right.
And so looking at that, like, I did pray for a new job.
Wow.
I did pray to at the time I didn't know that it was YouTube, but I did pray for an opportunity to expand and to be challenged.
Right.
And so responding back to that email, and it was a guy, he was a recruiter with YouTube, and that was even a blessing within itself, because my birthday, leading up to that email, my 30th birthday, my wife and some friends of mine, they were like, man, what do you want to do with your freelance work? Or what do you want to do? I was like, man, I actually want to be in the corporate world. And they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's big money. I was like, yeah, big money, but I can reach more people.
Yeah.
And so we prayed about me getting into the corporate world. 2 weeks later, I get an email from a recruiter saying like, hey, you'll be a good fit for our client. If you want more information, go ahead and give me a call back, which I never do.
Right.
I see a number that I never respond to. I don't know if they're trying to get my information or if it's a telemarketer. Like, I don't know what it was, but
it's that base brat mentality, man.
I'm like, man, I don't know who this is. But I was like, what? I don't want to miss the opportunity because I just prayed about it. Let me go for it. Call the person up, end up being a recruiter with YouTube.
Wow.
I said that I would love to go to the next step. They were like, you're gonna do a couple interviews, and then if you're a good fit, you're good to go. And so, I did the first interview, smashed it. The
nice.
HR lady loved me. She's like, oh, you're going to fit perfectly in the culture of YouTube and Google. I was like, yes. And I get to have a beard, wear whatever I want. This is and so going to my next interview was with the manager that I have now. Okay. And I've always had a vision of working for, a company, or even myself, having a big white desk and like a wall that was a window that I can write dry eraser marker on it, and like a whiteboard and a bunch of gear. And as soon as I jumped on the interview, it was a video conference interview, and it had everything that I always wanted. It was in that little, 15-inch computer screen,
Wow.
And doing the interview, I forgot everything that I knew about video and about live streaming and about everything. I literally forgot everything. I went blank.
Wow.
And, I started to feel myself kind of not stay on the path of who I wanted to be. So I actually stopped my own interview, man. I told my manager at the time, I was like, I don't think I can go on. I'm really super nervous. I know that people don't do this on a dream job, but I can't go on no more. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for wasting your time. And the guy looked at me. He was like, you know what? Thank you for being honest with me. And if everything works out, we'll give you a call back. And then he hangs up the phone.
Wow.
I was so angry. That was on a Friday. I was so angry at myself that I let everybody down. I let my wife down. I let my kids down.
Wow.
At the time I needed a better job to get another house. We're about to have our fourth son. And I'm like, what did I just do?
Wow.
The whole weekend I'm mad at myself and I don't want to talk to nobody. Nobody better not say anything about no YouTube video.
Hey, how'd the interview go?
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear, hey man, check out this YouTube video. Cause I'll get mad. I don't want to hear nothing about no YouTube, nothing.
Wow.
Don't tell me don't Gmail me, don't send me no email. Like, I was so mad. And my wife was saying like, babe, why are you tripping? If you're supposed to have it, you're going to have it. I was like, babe, I stopped my own interview.
Right.
Who does that?
Right.
On one of the biggest companies in the world, I had a chance and I ruined it. And
wow.
I kept saying, I.
Yep.
Monday came, didn't hear back. I was like, you know what? Back to plan A. Let me try to figure this out again. Tuesday came. My son got out of school early that day. I had to go pick him up, and I was actually in traffic, angry that I was in traffic, and it was hot that day too. And it was in October, man. It was just blazing hot. No pun intended.
Right.
And I got a call from the guy. He just sounds super depressed and like, man, I thought this was gonna work out, man. I just wanted to give you a call back. We usually don't do this, but like, I just wanted to give you a call back and let you know, and that I heard back from them, and he took this deep sigh, and I was like, you know what? Let me stop you, man. Thank you for the opportunity, like, because I didn't want to hear no, or I didn't want to hear that I'm rejected. I didn't want to hear the bad news.
Right.
I was gonna stop him before I heard the bad news, because in my head I thought I already knew what was gonna happen. And I was thanking them for the opportunity, and thank you for checking me out, and hopefully I can apply again, or whatever, however I can get into it. Maybe we can work this out again.
Right.
And he's like, wait, before you hang up, and he took this deep sigh. If you want the job, it's yours. I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
He's like, I don't know what you did. You were the best candidate. They loved your response. And if you want the job, welcome to YouTube. I had no words.
Wow.
Zero words.
I mean, he played that out like a Mark Burnett, television show, man. Like,
I was like, hey, man, can you hold on real quick? I muted my phone, and I was like, thank you, Jesus. Screaming at my car. I was crying, Wow. I got back on the phone. I was like, yeah, what do I want? What do I need to do? He was like, hey, man, get to Mountain View on Halloween. That was my first day at Google. And he's like, yeah, man, welcome to Google.
Wow, that is crazy.
And I was like, I could not understand what just happened to me. Because if you were to tell somebody else that, they were like, bro, that's not true. Right. You don't get to bomb your second interview and then still get the job.
That's TV stuff. That's like a TV story.
And the whole time I was like, God was like, yo, when are you going to trust me?
Right.
Fear no one but me.
Wow.
Don't miss the opportunities, because things can happen to you and your blessing can be right there. Don't let up. Don't be left with a feather. You know what I mean? Don't give up because you're so afraid of being a failure, or you're so afraid of it not going to go through. You don't know what's going to happen. Be fearful that you're going to miss the opportunity if you don't take the chance, if you don't, apply, or you don't practice, or you don't study in your schoolwork. Like, you don't ever want to miss the opportunities,
Yeah.
And that's what I look at this. Like, when I go to work every day and I'm cheesing and smiling, you see me how I was at work, bro. I was super cheesy. Not meeting you for the first time, but I was like, bro, I'm at YouTube.
Right.
Like, you hungry? Let's go get some food.
Let's go get some food at YouTube. Let's go. Let's go get some coffee at YouTube.
Yeah, man. I walk around like, this is unreal, because in my head, if you were to ask me, I'm not supposed to be there because I didn't qualify to be there.
Right.
Because I messed up I stopped my interview.
Right.
And that's just a lie, because God the whole time was like, bro, this is what you prayed for, right? And you put in the trust to get here. You put in the work to get here. Yeah. All you had to do was just put it in the atmosphere.
That is wild, man. I think most of the time the issue with people, and I've talked about this many times already in these 4 episodes, that people aren't necessarily afraid of, the truths that they're presented with. They're afraid of being afraid, and they allow that fear of the unknown to rule them and take over. Like, most of the time and that's why the whole point of the show, I always say, if you seek to understand more, you can learn to fear itself less, and it's not about being void of fear, much like you're saying. It's about letting that fear drive you and not being afraid of rejection, of failure, of missing out, and these are all topics that I'm excited to explore as the series goes on. I think FOMO, my FOMO episode, is going to be probably one of the most fun. I got to find a really fun guest for that one, because I think that's something that we all experience. But once again, you have perfectly segued into the next question, man. And if you're okay with it, I want to take a minute to talk about a situation you were recently experienced that I'm sure everyone listening heard about, because it made global headlines. Earlier this month, you were present at YouTube headquarters during the tragedy that took place there, involving a woman opening fire on campus. And in fact, you told me that it happened near or in the same exact spot where we had met not a month and a half earlier for lunch. So if you're willing, man, talk to us about that experience, and specifically, how did faith and fear coincide that day?
So yeah, man, that was actually at the same place where you and I had lunch. Right out there on the patio in the main building. I love that spot 'cause that's where the pizza is. You know what I mean? Earlier, I love pizza, and
Right.
so I love it out there. It's here in the outdoors. I get to see the sun and get some vitamin D.
Yeah.
Catch the sea breeze when it comes through. So I love that spot.
They got the pavilion where they do concerts and stuff. And
Yeah.
people
We
come
do,
in
we
to
do a lot
perform.
of stuff out there. Right now we got some basketball going on, so I'm out there trying to dunk on people.
Nice.
But yeah, so that day it was crazy, man. I woke up that morning and I felt like I needed to get to work earlier than normal. And so I was like, man, I gotta get up. And I got up, got ready for work. And as I was getting dressed, I was like, man, I feel like I gotta wear some sweatpants today. And I was like, I don't know why I have to wear sweats to work because, on the day, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the busiest days for me. I'm on a lot of meetings, back to backs, and I always want to make sure that I'm presentable.
Right.
I don't know who I'm talking to, as far as the creators or brands. So, I don't want to walk into a meeting wearing some sweatpants, but
Right.
that day I was like, I feel like I need to wear sweats. And so I put on sweats and went to work. And that whole day was like, it was a chill day, but like it was just something different about like just everybody kept saying like, man, it feels like a Friday. I was like, it does, but it's not. It's Tuesday,
Wow.
And I was actually going to walk up. I was in a different building when everything happened. I was actually going to walk over to have lunch in the main building outside because they had pizza. And I was told, messaging a bunch of friends that day and was like, yeah, we're going to meet up for lunch. I'll meet you guys, 901 in the patio and make sure you save me a seat, blah, 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 blah. And as I was walking to the door, God said, stay in your building. And like, I stopped and I was like, whoa, what? I was like, why am I hearing this? Why am I feeling this way? And God was like, no, stay in your building. And so I texted all my boys and was like, I'm going to stay here, in my building for lunch. I'll catch y'all maybe for some coffee. I love coffee. Maybe we'll catch up. They're like, oh, yeah, for sure, man. We'll get at you later. So I went about my day, got some lunch, talked to my brother about some art stuff. He's an artist.
Right.
I talked with some coworkers about some events that we had going on the weekend. And I actually got some coffee. I didn't wait for my boys. So I got some coffee, and as I was getting some coffee with my manager, we seen people, we heard people screaming and yelling, but we didn't know what that was. And everybody like was eating and kind of looked up like, what's going on outside?
Wow.
We looked up and we seen people running down the hill, running into our building, and their knees are scraped up and like they're crying and like, red and all this stuff, man. They're like, there's a shooter at 901. There's a shooter at 901. And so when we heard that, man, everybody just started freaking out. Like, people started running everywhere. At the time, we didn't know that it was a female. We didn't know if anybody was killed or what. We didn't know. All we heard was there's a shooter up there and they're shooting people.
Right.
And, hearing that, bro, everybody started running everywhere. And so my instincts is guiding, like, all right, I need to get home. I need to get to my family ASAP, because when I think of a shooter, I think of somebody with a semi-automatic or some type of couple guns where they're doing damage.
Right, exactly.
And so I ran upstairs, I grabbed my bags, I helped some people down the stairs, and I was talking to my manager. I was like, man, we got to get out of here. And he's like, man, and he was scared, like he was shaking up. And he's like, man, I got to stay here. I was like, bro, no, you don't. I was like, you come with me and I'll bring you back to the city when everything is clear. I was like, well, we need to get out of here. We don't know if that shooter's coming here. We don't know what's going on. So you sit and duck. It's not safe.
Right.
He was like, nah, I gotta stay here. And so, before they locked everybody down, man, I ran outside. I called my wife to tell her what was happening, that I was safe. She didn't even know what was happening. The news, nobody knew what was going on just yet.
Right.
And I got in my car, man, and you just seen helicopters coming out of nowhere, SWAT rolling down the street, police cars were everywhere.
Yep.
And I got home, man, and I just sat there, and it was so unreal, because where the lady was shooting people was where my friends were sitting, where I've been sitting, and that's what trips me out. And I think about it every day still. Like, yo, God, you saved me. I was going to sit literally right there at those seats right by the main entrance door where she was trying to get into and where she shot the people at, you know? And that's what trips me out, bro. I'm like, yo, God, just hearing God or having faith that God is the one that's, put the brakes on me going up to the building, to having a lunch outside. That could have been me killed.
Right.
And again, like going back to like, I can't leave this earth until I know that my kids are taken care of, that my wife's taken care of, that I left something behind that can last for generations to come.
Right.
And in my head, I'm like, bro, that could have been me.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine my wife, who's a stay-at-home mom, who homeschools our kids, having to take care of 4 boys by herself, bro. I still like, it trips me out, man, even trying to even think about that just a little bit.
Right.
And for anybody that has to go through that, where they're left with kids or just situations, man, it was a trip, man, to know that that's where I was going to be at, and how God was like, nah, you stay in your building. And to knowing that whole day, like even wearing sweats, like bro, I was sprinting out of that building, getting out of it.
Oh man.
Everybody was running to their cars and running everywhere. And I'm like, I for sure in my head thought it was like a video game and the dude had a sniper rifle, bro, and he was just waiting for just to gun people down, in my head. Or that was going on in my head while I was sprinting.
Oh, for sure.
Good thing I had sweatpants on that day, man. I was running like a 4-3, getting to the car, man.
Yeah, man.
Because we didn't know what was happening. We just know that people were crying, screaming. Everybody was shook, and which I was too. Even going back to work that later on that week was unreal. Like we all just kind of sat there, was like, yo, I don't even know if working is even okay right now.
Right.
Like,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I apologize, but I would just imagine that going through something like that, it really, we all get so caught up in our daily routines and the monotony of life, and we get very introspective or introcentric, I should say, as to what we have going on and take care of, especially here in the peninsula and Silicon Valley. People are always so focused on what they got going on, what they got to get done. And I could only imagine that something like that happening, or any kind of tragedy, just shakes you to your foundation to say, like, none of that matters. Yeah. When you really think about it, none of that actually matters when we can put aside our differences and our selfishness and stuff. We're all just humans living the same life, and sharing an existence. And that, I think, at the end of the day, is the most important thing, but
yeah, and once you realize that, like, I can say that this experience definitely changed my mindset to slow down and to appreciate things. Working for a tech company, you're always hustling and busting,
Right.
And then on top of that, being a freelancer. So again, gigging and getting shows and doing videos and work for clients and trying to get the next client, and then being a husband and then a father, like my life was just a blur. Like everything was just me quick, and I would say that the last month, this month and last month, man, have really got me to a point to where I'm back to slowing down and appreciating life, appreciating my family.
That's awesome.
Not worrying about the next, job or the next thing, or worrying about somebody's YouTube video, to appreciate where I'm at, what I'm doing, who I am, and to really just slow down and just enjoy life, man. Because the things that we worry about or we stress about, we can't take with us.
Right.
And it sucks that it takes, these horrible things to happen.
Yeah. To
realize that. But in those moments, man, God always shows out and shows up and shows out.
Right.
And I'm thankful for that, man. Do I wish bad things happen? No. But sometimes, God uses certain things to get the glory, to help people further or help more people,
Yeah.
So, I'm sad that what happened to that lady and her family. I'm praying for her family, and even her, praying for her, man. And for the people that got shot, praying for their healing, and everybody's recovering well.
Wow.
But it really, when you think about it, it just, some things are just not that serious, or not serious, but not that important.
Right.
To want to take somebody else's life or take your own, or to stress about certain things, man. There's way more life than your YouTube video. There's way more in life than sports or anything like that. I think sports, they're not there to help you make money. They help to build your character.
Right. Exactly.
And even art, art is not to make you money. It's to help build your character.
Right.
And I think these type of things help shape who you are or what you believe in, or, I look at it that way. Is these things help shape me to become a better person.
Right. I think a lot of people would when tragedy happens, their first reaction is, well, why would God let this happen? And I think it's important to, of course, no one knows the true whys of, God's plan or the universe or the reason behind things happening. But I think that it's important to explore the thought and the idea that, I remember sitting in this one class, a philosophy class once, or maybe it was philosophy or it was like a young adults ministry. I think it was the latter. But, the person speaking brought up a very good point. He said, God doesn't put you in situations. God doesn't test you. You know what I mean? And he said that's the other guy, or that's the enemy. That there are situations that get manipulated, that can cause confusion, that can cause cause you to question certain things, but that's not from God. And I think that you can liken it to a parent. Like a parent who truly loves you is not going to put you in situations that confuse you, that manipulate you, that skew that put you in an unsafe position or skew the details of what you should be understanding about your situation. That is not the loving kindness of somebody that has your best intentions in mind or at heart. And I think that that's important to think about, even though we will never know the truly understand the why of things. I think that it's definitely important to know, it's not God that's doing this. Unfortunately, we live in a world that is is sinful by nature, or is crooked and corrupt by nature, and it's up to us to make the best of this existence. The
be in it but not of it. You know what I mean?
Be in it but not of it. Exactly. That's a very, very good credo to live by, man. In episode 1, my man Eric Thomas made a radical, at least I thought it was radical and interesting comment, because it really made me think that he believed fear to be greater than love. And I know where your brain's going, because it's exactly where my man went, to the scripture where it says the greatest of these things is love. But if you think about that scripture, Blaze, if you think about it, it doesn't say anything about fear. It says faith, hope, and love. So he got me thinking. He said that fear is greater than love, because in the context of the conversation, I actually had to agree with him, because he explained that he felt this way because, just like love, fear is a great motivator, and it may be an even greater motivator, because he brought up the example of mothers that are moved to lift 2-ton cars to save their children, or rip a car door off, whatever, to save their kids. He said, if you think about the greatest stories, it wasn't necessarily love, except for the greatest. Again, I know where your brain's going, but most times it's not that love. It's not just that love. It's the fear of losing your loved ones. It's the fear of failing and maybe losing your own life. It's that great fear that comes up within you, that I believe is the natural form of fear, the most natural form, the biological form of fear, where you're not getting in your head and experiencing irrational thoughts, but instead it's that fight or flight, and you choose to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think with that, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
I wouldn't look at fear being stronger than love. I think that love that you have for a loved one, that love, and this is just my belief. I think my love for my children gives me the power and the discipline to maintain or to strive to be better or to not let things fall. I think that
I like that.
It's I don't know. I believe that God doesn't give us the spirit of fear. I think that's the enemy telling us lies.
I agree.
I think when we do fear, I would say fear God. When I fear missing out on something, I think that fear gives me, or the love that I have for my kids. I'm trying to word this to where I look at love as power. It's not just like this, give me a heart and I love you and butterflies. Like, nah, bro, that love is fire.
Right. Exactly.
Love is passion. That love is discipline. Like, I love you enough to do this for you no matter what it takes. The mom's lifting cars. It's my love. I love you so much. Not that I fear losing you. It's because I love you that much that the fire in me or that love that I have for you is so great and so powerful that it's going to give me the strength to lift up a car and to literally destroy anybody coming in my way trying to hurt you. It's not that I fear of losing you. It's that I love you that much.
Wow.
That it gives you this whole different strength, or this whole different, like, it does something to you. Like, if you love somebody or love something, you're going to do everything you possibly can to maintain that, to not lose that. And that it's not fear. It's that it's power behind that.
In the context of the YouTube day.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it was fear that moved you to take action? Because like you said, I remember you sharing that with me, that you had actually taken time. It wasn't just, see people running, hear gunshots, grab my stuff and I'm out. Like, you actually took the time to make sure that others were safe. I remember you mentioned there was a handicapped gentleman that needed help.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it was fear that moved you to take action? Like we just described, the fear of loss, the fear of not being able to see your kids and your wife again, or the fear of the thought of her having to be alone without you? Or would you argue that if you had focused on your fear, you wouldn't have taken the actions that you did?
I think if I didn't focus on it, I probably. I mean, that's a hard question, man. Because I feel like it's.
Or was it a mixture?
Man, I think it was, man. I think it was. Again, I think the fear within me not being able to see them and to be there, or for her in my head, again, it's all in your head, right? Mm-hmm. That she won't be able to, like, it's going to be tough for her to have the boys by herself, or it's going to be tough for her to move on without me.
Yeah.
But in my head, again, bro, I love my kids to death. Whatever that takes, I'm home. And that was my whole thing. Like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to make it home today. Like, it don't matter. Nothing's going to stop me. I see a guy in a wheelchair. Everybody was running past him. Bro, we're on the 3rd floor.
Wow.
Everybody's trying to get in the elevator. Who's going to carry this man down these steps?
Right.
Bro, I love you too much to see something happen to you. Let me help you. And some other guys help them. Let me help you guys down. Let me tell you where not to go.
Right.
Let me, hey, there's people are just chilling, still drinking, eating their broccoli. I'm like, bro, there's a shooter.
Wow.
Everybody's running. I was like, if you don't get up, and I slammed the computer, if you don't get up and get out of here, and they're like, okay, sorry, you're right. And then they snapped into them, and then they started getting out of there.
Wow.
So it's that thing too. It's like, man, wait a minute.
Right.
You don't know what's going on. You just chilling here, and there's a shooter. Bro, if you don't get up, like, get up out of here, you don't see people running, and so it's, it's like a double-edged sword, man.
Yeah.
You can fear. I feel like there's two kind of fears. You fear because something's scary, or you're fearful of, or lies get put in your head, what makes you fear the unknown. But then there's that fear, and I hope this is all making sense to you and to everyone. But then there's that fear of missing out because you were afraid or you were scared. Mm-hmm. And that fear of not missing the moment because you love something so much, you're going to go for it 110%.
Wow. I completely agree, because I always argue that I said last week that we use fear as an umbrella term, and it causes us to not explore further the deeper levels of what that means to us. Whether it's in that moment, whether it's a fear that has plagued you your entire life, we don't take the time to understand. That's the whole point of the show, is to let's create a moment where we can have an open discussion about this, so that we can maybe understand it more. And we're truly blessed creatures, humans, where we can think about these things and draw our own conclusions and inferences, and things from just an open discussion, and really explore what fear means to us. I always make sure that the first thing when I'm talking to somebody that's truly interested, I always say, okay, now look, we got to understand that there are four psychological types of fears, but really at its core, there are two types of fear: biological and psychological. And biological was there from God. That was there, that teaches us to be as hunters and gatherers, to be afraid of a wild animal that could kill us, or a weapon that could hurt us. The situation that you experience, that's biological fear. That is fight or flight. That is the amygdala going crazy, saying, hey, get your butt up and get out of here.
Yeah.
And then there's the psychological fear, and that's where fear of missing out would come in, because it may be rational, it may be irrational, but to you, it's completely rational, and it's something that makes sense to you, whether in that moment or for a lifetime. But it's very important for us to explore these concepts and understand the difference between these two very different types of fear, because Tony Robbins said, Tony Robbins, I remember, made a very important point, that the heart and the mind are biochemically connected, and we treat them as if they operate independently. And I think that by just using the word fear, that is both biological and psychological, we are confusing ourselves and others as to the origins, causes, and results of those fears. And so I think it's really important that we start talking about them as a unit. They're the symbiotic relationship. They live and feed off of each other, and we need to start understanding better what that fear means and how we can deconstruct it and then start to understand it better.
Yeah, and using it for fuel.
Using it for fuel, man.
That was, I've learned that at a young age, is letting that fear, or whatever it is, let it fuel to why I'm doing something. And so for football, if there was a guy that was a lot bigger than me, man, I'm afraid that I'm gonna get smacked and he's gonna score a touchdown and I'm gonna look dumb. So bro, I'm about to give you all my might.
Right. Wow.
And I'm gonna try to hit you as hard as I can.
Yeah.
And what's crazy enough is that always worked for me.
Yeah.
People would say like, oh, watch out for number 33. Like, he's small, but he's gonna smack you. And I'm always around the ball. I'm always making plays. I was, and
wow.
And it was that I did not want to look dumb, or just because I was small. Like, bro, I'm about to line up with you.
Right.
And so even in high school, I played against Stevie Johnson. He played for the Bills and the Niners, and we graduated the same class. And I remember playing against him in high school, and everybody was afraid of him. I was like, bro, I'm about to lock this dude down. Like, he's not going nowhere. Like, and years later, him going to the league, and he's like, yo, man, what happened? And I was like, I got hurt in college.
Right.
But I believe that I could have made it. He's like, man, I believe you could. You're the only one that locked me down that year.
Nice.
I was afraid of looking dumb.
Right.
And that fueled me to work twice as hard, to study twice as hard, to know his every move, what his eyes were doing, what he did. And I used that, and even now, I use all that same type of mentality that I used while playing sports.
Right.
Techniques that I learned to let those things kind of fuel what it is that I'm doing. And so yeah, man. So learning, I think the trick is to take fear and make it to where it's fuel to do what you love doing. and that fear also letting it fuel to your identity and who you are and who you're supposed to be, I think is the most important thing.
I'm gonna let you get out here soon because I know you want to take your boys to the park, man, and I don't want to suck up all your evening. Before we get to this last question, which you can take as much time or as little time answering as you want, but it's the same question I'm going to ask all of my guests. Before we do that, though, where can people follow you and find out more about who Blaze Davis is online?
Yeah, man. You can go to my IG on Instagram. It's ITS Blaze Davis. That's all my socials. You can go. I think that'd be the best place, man. Go on Instagram. Everybody's on IG now, so
yeah.
You can go to find my website. You can find all my other stuff. It's Blaze Davis. Go follow me. Say what's up. Check out my stories. I'll definitely respond back. And I love my community. I love my tribe, my family. So,
right.
I encourage everyone to and invite everyone to join my tribe.
Bad, man. Last question, my man. What is the greatest lesson you've learned from fear in your lifetime?
My greatest lesson. Yeah, don't let me get started on that.
That's a different show.
Different show.
Right.
I've learned to not be left with a feather. It just goes back to do not want to miss out on an opportunity. I don't want to these gifts that I was blessed with. I don't want them to go and not be able to share them with anybody. I don't want them taken from me. I've learned to not be left being fearful, to being to have the what ifs. I don't want to have the what ifs. I don't want to have any regrets. I want to, live life free and to go about my business, going about my father's business, and to live without any regrets, man, and to not miss my opportunities. Don't be left with a feather, I think is what I've learned.
I love it, man. That's a great word. Blaze Davis, man. Thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem, man. Thank you for, thank you for letting me be a part of this. This was fun. Hopefully I get to join back on and do this again, man. This was fun.
Oh, for sure. We'll definitely be having you back, man. Have a wonderful day.
You too, bro.
There you have it, you guys. I want to thank my guest, Blaze Davis, for an amazing and inspiring time today and for truly being a versatile light in an ever-changing darkness. If you're listening on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher, or YouTube, be sure to follow us and have your notifications turned on to be notified the moment a new episode drops every Friday. And be sure to rate the show and leave us a review. Help me touch the lives of millions of people around the world, helping them to understand more and in return fear less. Remember, guys, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't understand something, ask questions and seek understanding. Because if we seek to understand more, we can learn to fear less. Remember, you can find me almost anywhere online, at Coach Lane on Instagram and at Coach Lane Lee on Facebook. My office hours are from 24 to 7 to 365. Thanks again for joining us today. Remember, whatever it is, go out there and get after it. I'm Coach Lane. I'll catch you on the flip.